We're talking politics this morning with the ANC Youth League having elected its top 6. Now, this was the league's first conference in nearly 8 years. Pule Letshwiti-Jones was elected unopposed as president. Phumzile Mgcina will be the league's first female deputy president. And President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to deliver the closing remarks at the conference. eNCA's Pule Letshwiti-Jones is following that story for us. He joins us now live. Pule, a very good morning to you. Of course, when you're taking a look at this top leadership that has now been elected, one wonders exactly how is it that they're going to start implementing all of those little nitty-gritties to ensure that they've got voter confidence ahead of 2024. And more than anything else, it's about the youth vote, young people having to vote. And is the African National Congress, the Youth League that is, the right political party to actually garner voter confidence ahead of 2024?
Yeah. Well, that's a very important question as well. And looking at how previously during the local government elections, how the voter morale was quite low, it will be interesting to see how they can instill confidence within some of the constituency of the ANC as well across the country. But most importantly, how relevant can they be to young people? How can they resonate to young people? And how can they ensure that some of the ideas and issues which they said should be tackled during the political inputs they gave yesterday here during this elective conference will be dealt with? So it has to be about being implemented. And I think the Youth League has been quite vocal about saying that they do not want any interference from the mother party, national, of course, leaders of the ANC, or they don't want to be seen being in the crossfire of any factional battles within the organization as well. Their mandate will be to revive the ANC Youth League. Their mandate will be to ensure that they try to speak to young people and ensure that they address their challenges, of course, which includes youth unemployment and of course the education as well, to ensure that education becomes free as well. So those are some of the issues they will be trying to tackle, but it will be quite difficult as well. We understand the last time that the ANC Youth League had a president was with the former president of of the organization, being Julius Malema. Now it's been almost a decade since the ANC Youth League has been active. Of course, it has been being spearheaded by the National Youth Task Team. So it will be a lot of work that they have to do in terms of going on the ground, in terms of gunning for numbers, in terms of ensuring that the ANC aligned youth wing is, of course, alive again. I mean, they had just about 2,900 delegates coming in. That just shows that there's still more that they need to do to get the numbers coming up again in their next conference, to get the confidence of young people, to ensure that they can reflect on the issues that young people are facing on a daily basis. And that has been one of the talking points. Young people have been saying here that they do not want the mother party to interfere. The Secretary General of the ANC, Fikile Mbalula, said that that would be the clarion call, that the organization would only interfere if it's something that necessitates them to do so, of course, which would speak to ill discipline amongst or other issues if members, of course, are not following party lines or party resolutions as well. But let's take a listen to what one of the ANC members had to say just yesterday when we spoke to him regarding how independent the ANC Youth League would be.
The overwhelming majority of delegates were happy with our processes. Of course, these processes did not come without challenges. There were challenges, but no conference is ever perfect. But we tried our best to deliver a more credible conference. We followed all organizational processes. The National Youth Task Team was appointed by the ANC. And so the running of this conference had to be understood within that context, that it's the ANC that is convening this Congress, this 26th National Congress of the ANC Youth League, working together with the NYTT. And we would have told them when we reconfigured, or rather when we first appointed them and reconfigured them later, that they lost their autonomy when they were disbanded, and they will reclaim their autonomy when they are elected at a national congress. Now they've reclaimed their autonomy.
Well, let's bring into this matter political analyst Yolokazi Mfutho into this one as well. Yolokazi, you know, we're hearing what my colleague Pule Letshwiti-Jones is necessarily saying about, you know, how this elective conference has actually gone for the past weekend. However, now, as we're trying to gain autonomy for the ANC Youth League, how possible is it? I mean, already we've got somebody who is a former NTT, who actually wrote to the mother body saying that there was a lot of political interference. I also was reading an article this morning regarding one such a delegate was actually accused of vote buying, was saying that there's a lot of vote buying within the actual elective conference itself, something where young people were being offered 3,000 Rand. And the article was reading that how can you offer young people that are unemployed 3,000 Rand to vote for a specific presidential candidate? Already you're putting these very same young people who don't even have any means of income in a very precarious position. So independence, autonomy, it's one thing to say it, but it's a different thing to implement it. And is it implementable within the African National Congress's perspective?
Good morning, Faith. Good morning to the viewers of eNCA. Well, my take on this is that the ANC is not necessarily ready to let go of the ANC Youth League and allow them the space to be autonomous, right? And we've had this from even the president now who's been elected, Colin, when he was speaking to news outlets at some point, was saying that, no, they don't have autonomy now. They are being held by the hand of the ANC to host this conference and deliver the officials. Then post that, they'll reclaim their autonomy. But that becomes a very tedious job because now they have to be dependent on the ANC in one hand, monetary budget, but also they need in terms of ideas and implementation, and sometimes have to disagree with the ANC, then that journey is going to be very, very difficult. And I'm afraid that with this leadership that has been elected yesterday, the possibility of that is a bit slight. And it's something that can happen, but it's going to need a very huge change of tide in thinking, in actually uniting young people behind the ANC Youth League and for them to find a common ground.
Yeah, but do young people in South Africa, the greater South African discourse, actually view the ANC Youth League as a relevant platform and a relevant tool and medium to address some of those issues? And I say this in light of the fact that when the political report was being delivered yesterday by Fasiha Hassan, she asked the question around how many of those delegates were actually unemployed. About 70% of them raised up their hands to say that, you know, they are unemployed. An unemployed youth in a political conference, it just makes one wonder, are we dealing here with politics of the stomach?
Well, what Fasiha did in that particular political report was very important to actually signify to the ANC that the work that you are doing is not sufficient enough for young people in this country. And it was very important for young activists within the ANC themselves to identify themselves with the rest of the South African population, because there is a very huge dilemma that in South Africa we have today of political elitism, where young people who have joined politics, they become opulent, they have a particular lifestyle, as we have seen with other leaders who have grown into leadership positions within the ANC. So the members of the ANC Youth League themselves find in this quagmire that we find all of us as young people in South Africa in. So it's very important for them to champion now the rights of young people, to actually champion the voice for young people, to be included in decision making, for government to actually ensure they implement strategies to increase employment, not just employment of 350 or employment of just the stimulus that the presidential office has, but meaningful employment that is going to secure a demographic dividend for young people in this country. So the ANC Youth League might still have a voice and relevance amongst other young people in the country, but they need to intensify that voice, like Fasiha did in that report, and to ensure that, to show young people that we see you, we represent you, and we're going to carry your voices and make sure that they are ahead in these decision-making tables.
Yeah, I want to speak a little bit and labor on this point around autonomy. You know, as much as the ANC Youth League has now got a top 6, but the last time we saw an ANC Youth League that disagreed with the mother body, we saw an expelled and a suspended ANC Youth League. And the last time we saw an ANC Youth League that was able to truly champion, even to the disagreement of the mother body, was the ANC Youth League of one such Julius Malema as well as Floyd Shivambu. We can never deny that. That was the time that the ANC Youth League was able to take on the mother body with absolute vigor. Now that the African National Congress has learnt that lesson, will they allow this particular ANC Youth League to even exercise its voice to a point of disagreement? I mean, would Colin Malachi, for example, stand up politically against ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa and say, no, I don't agree with the way that you are actually perpetuating this particular agenda of development within the country discourse? Or will they just simply be muzzled?
Well, so there are two things, right? So we've seen what happened at the start of the conference with the recallment of Pule Letshwiti-Jones when he was disagreeing with the processes and disagreeing particularly with the SG of the ANC on the conference in the Eastern Cape. He was given a letter. So there is within the ANC a culture that when we have dissenting views, we are going to eliminate you from the discussion. So that has been culture. So it's not necessarily going to be unique to Colin on this particular leadership of the ANC Youth League. But there is a culture of not allowing for disagreements and for young people to actually have their own voices. So it's going to be important for this current leadership now to ascertain themselves and cement themselves in autonomy, in independence. And that is going to start from how they are going to be onboarded into the ANC Youth League itself. How are they going to officiate their meetings? How are they going to run their meetings? That is going to be important, because if they're going to be dependent on the ANC itself, then it's going to be difficult for them to disagree with the ANC or even begin to actually speak against whatever that the president is doing or the SG is doing, because they are also thinking of their own lifestyles to maintain and also their own positions to maintain. So it's going to be a very difficult journey, but the ANC must do better in terms of creating an enabling environment for young people to have dissenting votes, for young people to disagree, agree, learn, unlearn, because that space for ANC Youth League has been a space for that, a space for contestation of ideas, a space for policy, a space for debates to be actually enriched, because these young people are not just are young people from communities. They have grievances, they have ideas, they have a particular vision of what this country should go into terms of the direction towards our elections and our economic policies. So it's very important that they embrace dissenting views as well.
Yeah, it's definitely something that we're going to have to look out for. The political analyst, Yoloka Zimfuto, just giving us the latest analysis on the outcomes of the ANC Youth League's elective conference. There you have it. You've got a top 6 in the African National Congress's Youth League. And now it's about seeing exactly how is it that they resonate with the greater South African discourse. Don't forget that 60% of this country actually comprises of young people.